Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor and privilege to invite our chief guest, His Lordship, the Chief Justice of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Honorable Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya, President's Counsel, to address this august assembly.
Honorable sister and brother justices of the Supreme Court, Honorable President and other justices of the Court of Appeal, and all other members of the judiciary, Honorable Minister of Justice, Honorable the Attorney General, Honorable Solicitor General, newly inducted President of the Bar Association, Mr. Saliya Piris, President's Counsel, Secretary of the Bar Association, Mr. Rajiv Amarasuriya, who is continuing in the second term of his service, newly appointed Deputy President, Mr. Anura Maddegoda, President's Counsel, and other members of the Executive Committee of the Bar Association, newly elected members of the Bar Council, President's Counsel, outgoing President of the Bar Association, Mr. Kalinga Indathissa, President's Counsel, members of the official and the unofficial bar, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Today marks another important day in the Bar Association calendar. It is the beginning of a new chapter of this esteemed professional body. A professional body which holds a great responsibility, not only towards its members, but also to the entire society. The Bar Association of Sri Lanka will be celebrating its 50th anniversary in a couple of years, and its members are an integral part of the dispute resolution mechanism in our country. They enjoy a statutory right to assist and advise clients and to appear, plead, or act in every court or other institution established by law for the administration of justice. Persons who satisfy the Supreme Court that they are persons of good repute and of competent knowledge and ability have the privilege to be admitted as attorneys at law. Each and every member of the bar has successfully convinced the Supreme Court that they are persons of such qualities and had gained admission to the legal profession. Thereby, they have earned the right to represent as recognized by law. In this context, it is important always to remember that such right to represent emanates from two other important concepts, namely the right to be heard and the right to be represented. As we all know, the right to be heard is an integral part of a fair hearing and had been recognized as a rule of natural justice throughout a long period of time. The birth of the legal profession itself is traced back to the recognition of the right to be represented, a right that evolved from the times of early civilizations. Such right is statutorily recognized at present. The Judicature Act provides that, I quote, every person who is a party to any proceeding or who has a claim to have the right to be heard in any proceeding of any court or institution established by law for the administration of justice is entitled to be represented by an attorney at law. This entitlement is extended to the parties before any person or tribunal that exercises quasi-judicial powers unless otherwise expressly provided by law. Therefore, the right to represent, the right enjoyed by an attorney at law, should not be taken in isolation, but always should be recognized along with the rights of the litigants, namely the right to be heard and the right to be represented. In this context, one important question that arises is whether there is a right to choose their cases. that can be enjoyed by an attorney at law. Would not the recognition of an unrestricted right to choose defeat, negate, and adversely affect the foundation upon which the right to representation is built on? To what extent would granting such a right to an attorney defeat the right to be represented by an attorney enjoyed by persons who seek legal advice and representation? Rule 5 of the Supreme Court, Court of Etiquette for Attorney at Law, Rules 1988, provides an attorney at law may not refuse to act on behalf of a party or person in any matter or proceeding before any court, tribunal, or other institution established for the administration of justice, or in any professional matter at his or her professional fee. However, the same rule recognizes the right to refuse to act on behalf of a client in situations that renders it difficult for the attorney to maintain his professional independence or would otherwise make acceptance of such professional matter incompatible with the best interest of the administration of justice. Several other instances where an attorney at law could refuse to accept a case are set out in Rules 6 to 14. In formulating the scope of these acceptable instances to refuse a client's case, it is pertinent to remind ourselves the following observations of Lord Pierce in a House of Lords judgment delivered in the year 1967. I quote, "It is easier, pleasanter, and more advantageous professionally for barristers to advise, represent, or defend those who are decent and reasonable and likely to succeed in their action, or defend than those who are unpleasant, unreasonable, disreputable, and have an apparently hopeless case. Yet, it would be a tragic if our legal system came to provide no reputable defenders, representatives, or advisors for the latter, and that would be the inevitable result of allowing barristers to pick and choose their clients. It is not infrequently happens that the unpleasant, the unreasonable, the disreputable, and those who have apparently cases turn out after a fall and fair hearing to be in the right. It is also a judge's solemn duty to find that out of a careful and unbiased investigation, this they simply cannot do if counsel do not take on the less attractive task of advising and representing such persons, however small their apparent merits." Close quotes. These observations reflect the importance of placing the interest of the system of administration of justice in the forefront as opposed to the self-interest of an attorney who compromises his professional obligations by seeking the comfort of appearing only in winnable cases, while enjoying all other rights and privileges attached to the profession. Such an eventuality would negate the core objective of the right to be represented by an attorney, the very foundation upon which the right to represent a client is guaranteed to an attorney is built on. It is equally important that the members of the society to comprehend and understand the nature of the heavy professional obligations that rests on the shoulders of an attorney at law and appreciate the invaluable service an attorney at law renders to the society, who is also an officer of court. The Bar Association as the professional body of attorneys has an obligation to guide its members in the proper direction and ensure that they discharge their duties and responsibilities to to their clients and the society to the best of their ability. The adverse effect of a misconduct or a failure to act in accordance with such responsibilities by one member could tarnish the good name and repute of the entire profession.